Mike, man, I really enjoyed sitting in. David and I actually sitting in your third grade data team meeting today. I wanted to just give you some feedback because you came in and you interjected and you left them with some leadership tidbits that I think really need to be discussed. So I just want to start off by giving you some high praise.
Well, thank you.
I want to give you high praise for the way you actually interjected with the presentation that was being given, and you highlighted those three standards that were on that student report. And you didn't just highlight the fact that they were standards, you dove into the standard, particularly the standard around a student being able to multiply by tens.
Right.
And you even kind of broke that down more granular to skip counting by 10 at that grade level. And at that point, I saw teachers kind of zero in a little bit more than they were at first in the presentation, because I think you really hit a nerve. And it was a positive thing because you got to the real meat of the work.
Yeah.
So
well, thank you.
And you did it off the top of your head, but I thought it was skillfully done.
Well, and math is not my area. But what got me to it was, first of third grade, the kids were just introduced to multiplication. So wait a minute, there's got to be something more about that standard. So.
Well, you're not a math person, but you're an instructional leader. So you know how to read a standard, and you know what a student outcome should look like from it.
Yeah.
And I reckon, that was obvious today. A question I want to ask: as you zeroed in on that standard, how those data meetings occur bi-weekly, right?
Bi-weekly.
All right. So how do you want teachers to incorporate standards in those bi-weekly data meetings? Because you lifted something when you said what you said about those standards, and I didn't hear very much teacher interaction, probably because their wheels are spinning. So how do you want standards like the ones you pointed out incorporated in those bi-weekly meetings?
Well, the conversation has to drill down to chunks of material that our kids are lacking. And so if you go to the list that is on the right hand side, it's overwhelming.
Yeah.
And not one person can't do all that. But if you chunk that material into groups of standards and then groups of objectives, that this group of kids needs this group, and then you may have 4 groups in your classroom, but if you break it on down, but then if you go even further, and as I mentioned, the kids that receive services like ESL or have an IEP, is some of that can be addressed there rather than you having to address it in, I mean, you can always reinforce it in the classroom,
right.
but you have help. You pull in the reading coach. You look at, in third grade especially, you're going to look at what System 44 is going to address.
Yeah.
And so I think my whole point with the teachers is to realize that they're not alone and that they have a lot of resources. They just have to realize them first and then utilize them second. And that everything we look at should drill down to standards based.
So what I'm hearing you say is that you have a plethora of resources available for teachers, and you want them to utilize those to bridge the gap that students have in achieving the standard. So I hear the resources piece, and I'm gonna drill down a little bit more with my question, because I want to get to a certain action step, but I want to make sure that I'm going in the right direction.
Okay.
What evidence of a student, so for instance, you mentioned that you highlighted the standard that was basically skip counting by tens.
Right.
What type of evidence would you want that teacher to bring to a data meeting, considering that is a standard that the system has highlighted as a high leverage standard for that student?
Yeah.
So what do you want that teacher to bring to the next data meeting, considering that is one of the 3 high leverage standards selected for that student?
So it could be their formative assessments. It could be the portfolio for the child with a collection of work in it.
That's beautiful.
And then it could be something that I see on a walkthrough, and that I go back and say, thank you, because that's what we talked about in data meeting, and I saw it in action. So if I see it in action, then I've got the evidence right there. I might take a picture, might take a quick video,
Yeah.
something like that, and something like skip counting, which is very foundational to learning multiplication.
Yeah.
She might put that in her morning routine every morning.
Right.
So.
And I think you said it, because the action step that I was thinking about as I was watching, and as I reflected on what you highlighted with those standards and it was a third grade student, but those were second grade standards
Right.
that were lifted through the assessment system as high leverage for that student.
Right.
And what I was reflecting on was the fact that you lifted the fact that there needs to be a focus on these standards, and when you said work portfolios, that's really what I want to go for.
Yeah.
Like so as an action step, what I would like to see you do is have them bring student work portfolios to those data meetings that show where they have targeted these standards, because those work portfolios can serve as one, evidence that the student is making progress, two, evidence that the teacher is focusing on those high leverage standards that the student needs, and three, it allows us to drill down to specific students. Some students may have additional things in their portfolio because of their because of the nature of the gaps that they have. So is that something that you think
We done.
Yeah, that's
Done.
real. That's real. That's
We'll
real.
do it.
Now let me. I like to always kind of practice whatever action step we discuss. So walk me through. Well, let's go back in time to an hour ago when we were sitting in that data meeting. And what would you say to me as a third grade teacher to communicate that expectation and the why? So they're gonna do what you say because you're the leader and you're a charismatic leader and you're the principal.
So we've already had this conversation about documentation and data.
Yeah.
So documentation is data.
That's real.
And so it's going to tell us several things. It's going to tell me what you do, what the kids do in response to what you do, and it's all in the work. So if we're going to have data meetings bi-monthly, we got to look at the work that goes with the data. So is the data right? Is it maybe scoring them too low for some reason? Or is it scoring them too high for some reason? So, I mean, are they a good guesser? But you got to drill right down into mastery of the standards. It's about mastering the standards. And the work is the proof.
So I think you got it down pat. And so in 60 seconds, I'm a teacher, straight role play.
Okay.
I'm a third grade teacher. Give me that expectation.
Okay, Mr. Chandler. So we're going to have these data meetings. We have the first one today, and they're going to continue.
Okay.
So what do you think is the most important thing that we can do in a data meeting when you've got 22 kids?
Look at the formative assessment data.
Okay, and I agree with you there. But you're looking at 22 kids, and you're going to have them all over the place. High, medium.
Yeah, because I have some high performers
and low.
And I have lots of low.
And low. So are we going to drill down? Are we just going to look at trends, or are we going to drill down to individual students?
Well, I want to drill down to individual students, and I know that the reports from the Scantron assessment, the system does produce some really good reports.
Yep.
And I figured that I could just use that.
Okay. So what if the reports don't match what you think are the capabilities of the child? How do you prove that? Yeah, I mean, you say that about a child, and teachers do.
Yeah.
So how do you prove that?
I guess I can't.
I think you can, and I think it's with things that are right in your classroom. So if Michael's in your classroom, what have I done over the past week to show how you've taught me?
Oh, gotcha. So work students have
completed.
Okay.
And so
that makes sense.
Every student should have a portfolio of work. Doesn't mean that you're keeping all their work,
Okay.
but you're keeping important pieces that point to the fact that they've mastered an objective leading to mastery of a standard.
Okay, I can appreciate that. I can, because that's no extra work for me. I'm
You're just putting their work in a folder.
Gotcha. Okay. Okay. Now, what if I'm putting work in and the student hadn't really mastered the standard?
So, you know, what we've had this conversation, and so we'll have it again. Is that, I mean, our goal is mastery.
Yeah.
So, when a student doesn't master something, and it may be one student, but it may be 5 students, what do we need to look at first?
I think we need to look at what they weren't able to do, so I can understand exactly what I need to do to fill those gaps they may have.
Okay, but do you not need to look at how you presented that information?
I do, especially if it was if it was several students who didn't get it. I agree. I may have presented it in a way that wasn't the best way for them to get it.
And you know what I'm going to tell you to do?
Okay.
Is do some comparative analysis with your teammates on your common formative assessments.
Okay.
So Mrs. A, all her kids may have mastered that.
Yeah.
So then the collaborative piece is, what did you do different than I did?
That's a fair question.
And you can even get to the point where, you know, maybe I'm just not good at teaching this particular standard in math, but she is, and I'm really good at reading. So at a certain point of the day, why don't we switch kids, if that works, or we make that work, so that everybody has the same level of instruction for a particular standard or objective.
Okay, and cut on the practice. I think that was skillfully done, brother. That was skillfully done. And I mean, the probing question you asked me about if formative assessment says one thing, how do I prove it? That was a question that created a personal conviction for me that said, you know what, I don't know, and it totally validated the need for the student work portfolios. I think you did so well. You actually started going into another action step, and I think what you gave her was perfect. So when do you think we can actually see them bring in some?
Next time.
Next time. So the next one will be.
So it'll be the 4th.
The 4th. Okay. So we'll come back on the 4th, man, and check it out.
And they'll have it. I'll be in Marzano.
You'll be in Marzano. Okay. Mm-hmm. And I guess I'll be in Marzano too. So I will make.
But you'll see it. Those portfolios have to come from now on.
And the beauty of a portfolio is it's a finished product, so we don't have to be present to see it.
Right.
It'll be here when we get back.
But you know what the other beauty of a portfolio is?
What's that?
It shows your growth.
And I think that's something that you're.
When you put a kid's work chronologically in a portfolio and you start looking through that,
you see the growth,
and you can just go my.
Yeah.
You know, and pat yourself on the back as a teacher.
Yeah.
Because that's what it's all about.
Man, this was awesome. So I'll check it out on the 4th when we get out of training.
Okay.
And I can't wait, man. Appreciate it.
Good deal. We're good.